Hi there. I think I'm live, which is an interesting thing for me to say, but let's have a look at what we've got. We've got some people there already giving me a thumbs up. I've never used Ecamm before, and I was expecting a very different screen to this, so I don't know if there's going to be any questions coming up, but I thought I would just try a little bit tonight. Very impromptu. I don't think I've got anyone watching at the moment, so that's it. But 8 thumbs ups. I don't know how that's happened. So we are live, and I don't. There we go. We got some people watching that, so they were actually out there, which is excellent. So if you want to put a comment in, I'd like to be able to see if we get any comments, because it is a new bit of software, like I say. So the reason being, for full transparency, we've been using StreamYard for a long time, but their prices seem to have gone up twice as much for the next year. So I just thought I'd try Ecamm, which is about half the price. But at the moment, I'm quite worried because I can't see a screen. I've got your comments. Here are your comments, which is great. Tam, hi, excellent. Oh, good evening, Jonathan. What a pleasure to see you, sir. I've got a question for you, by the way, in WhatsApp, and I can't wait for you to answer that one. Yes, that's better. Loads of people. So, yeah, here I am trying this. So let's see if I can put a comment on the screen. Let's see if I can actually do that. I don't know if I can. Probably can't. So, yeah. Everyone's saying good evening, which is really good. It's a black screen, is it? Right, a black screen. You can't see me. Well, I'm thinking that you could possibly hear me, but maybe not see me. Why would that be? Bear with me, folks. Let's have a look. Why can't you see me? I don't know why that is. So let's just do that. Let's press that button. Does that work? No picture. Right. Okay. No picture. Okay. Let's see what's happening. What about now? Is there a picture now? Maybe. Absolutely. It's about the things outside of Western medicine. Oh yes. Brilliant. Okay. I've just pressed a button. Possibly you can see me. No, you still can't see me. Right, why is that? Can you now see me, everybody? Which is the only way you can try these things is to try these things. So yes, we've got a picture now. That's good. My picture looks like I've got half a screen completely black and just me. So I don't know what's going on. Well, what's happening in the carnivore world then? Are you on the right half of the screen? I have zero idea why that is, Jonathan. Let's have a look. So, no idea why that is. Yeah, that's all I can see is me on the half, which is a bit rubbish, really. Bit rubbish. I don't know what to say, mate. So, anyway, I will work this out and we'll press the right button in a minute. Let's have a look. What about now? No, that's not good. Right, let's get rid of that. We don't want that. Got no idea, actually. No idea why it's only like that. I've got really zero idea. Tech, spent 6 hours today messing around with it. Yes, it is awful, isn't it? I don't want OBS. I don't want that, and I don't want that. Right, so basically it's offering me loads of different cameras, and it's just me in a room. And I'm on half the screen. And I really can't work it out, chaps and chapesses. So I'm going to do as much as I can. Default, share scenes window. No, I don't know. Really don't know. Anyway, yes, what's happening? Well, one of the things that's interesting, actually, is I did a great interview today with Zoe Harcombe, which will be out in the next week. And I noticed it is my 1,000th video. 1,000 videos. So that was pretty exciting. I didn't realise I'd done that many, and I'm quite happy to get to about 31,500 subscribers in that time. So I want to thank you for that. The thing with Zoe is just packed full of information. She's so good, and we did it off the cuff, so to speak, and she spoke from the heart, and I just had a brilliant 40 minutes with her. So that will be out, and that should be by next week. Because it was so easy to edit, because there was nothing to edit out. She's just on point all the time. And I was just saying, as someone that's followed her for about 10 years since I started my low-carb journey, and I've subscribed to her newsletter, it was really nice to actually talk to her. I met her face-to-face for the first time at the conference, the Keto Brain Health Conference, so that was good. But we were talking about certain things, and I mentioned that some bloods, some of the labs, there is what's called the coefficient variation. So, for instance, with ferritin, if let's say your result was 100, there's a 25% coefficient variation calculation going on. So it could be that you're not 100, you're 75, or you're 125. And that's quite stark. And she just mentioned that when they were looking at cholesterol testing, how I think it was Fraser and I can't remember the second name. Sorry about that, but yes, they were measuring the accuracy of LDL, the results, and I think that was a 19% variation. So ferritin's pretty high, LDL is pretty high. It can be completely wrong. And we thought that was quite interesting, and that will be in my book. I'm talking about a lot more things in my book, so double the amount of pages for my book about bloods, and a lot more in depth about things like that, which I didn't cover in the first thing. So right now, I've got a thing here which has just popped up that seems to be able to change the scene. So let me just have a look at this. Default scene is like that. I don't want it like that. No, can't do it. Right. Nah, I can't do it. I can't change that picture. So we're going to just stick with what I'm saying with half a screen. And yeah, it's quite surprising. So I've actually gone through a few of the major labs to see what the variation is. And it does make a big difference. If you can't really sort of visualize it, imagine you had a tape measure that was 100 centimeters long, but occasionally it was stretched to 125 centimeters, and occasionally it would be 75 centimeters. But the other thing to put into this is the body variation as well, because one of the things you do, if you have enough money, and it is expensive to do this, so I'm not recommending that you do this unless it fits with your budget, is to do your labs fasted, and then have another set taken sort of 90 minutes later after you've eaten something, and then you can prove to yourself just how dynamic those numbers are, because that body variation is incredible. So going back to that tape measure as the analogy, so we've got this tape measure that should be 100 centimeters, but sometimes it's 125 and sometimes it's 75 centimeters. Imagine you were measuring a building, you were trying to fit a carpet or something in this very small building, but that kept stretching, and there was a lot of variation there as well, and maybe it wasn't totally flat. That's what you're dealing with blood. You're dealing with a human body that honestly, when you've had those labs, just 90 minutes later, even if you didn't eat, for instance, they would be different. So they're very dynamic numbers. So you've got the body variation, and you've also got the coefficient variation. And it is just fascinating to get into that. Hopefully you find that fascinating, because maybe you thought, that's a number, that is your number. And your CRP is 5, that's it, it's set in stone, it's 5. Or more importantly, maybe things like thyroid, your liver enzymes, your kidney function, all of those. It's very important to do the testing on a consistent basis. That's the way round this, is to always get measured, same time of day, same amount of fasting, same hydration status, all really difficult to control, to be honest. But that would help to get some tangible results. And one thing is not good. One set of labs is not great because you can't spot any trends. You don't know what was happening before. So if someone sends me bloods, let's say, and there's CRP, C-reactive protein, which is a protein that goes up in relation to inflammation. Let's say it was 6, right, and the range is 0 to 5. Well, you could say, well, that's a bit high. Firstly, the context there is we have people with triple figures, over in the hundreds of CRP. And I've even had one person come to me and their CRP was 80. That was the first bloods I saw. And I said, well, there's a lot of inflammation going on. Well, we didn't know what maybe was happening in the past. And then the next labs were 20 after eating this way. It was very quick to bring that down. So she was really happy going from 80 to 20, but if you were 6 and then you went to 20, you'd be unhappy. So this is why just one snapshot in time isn't that great. So that's what we were talking about. So body variation was not what we were talking about. That's part of the book, but we were talking about the variation in the numbers. Right, let's have a look at these questions. I'm very concerned that the picture is rubbish, and I've got all these controls. I have no idea, no overlays, nothing. The only person that probably relates to this is Jonathan, because it's very frustrating when you want it to be right and it doesn't. So let's have a look. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching. It's really great. Blah 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 blah. Let's have a look. Have you got your camera screen shut? Your camera screen shut. Camera screen shut. I don't know. Let me get rid of that maybe. Nope, that doesn't work. Anyway, right. I started a full body training split 3 times per week. If recovery is poor, what would be the first thing you would change? Frequency, volume, or intensity? Well, I'll tell you what, if I had carnivore muscle on... Oh, it is carnivore muscle. If I started full body training split 3 times a week, if recovery is poor, what would be the first thing you would change? Well, why would your recovery be poor in the first place? Could you be not sleeping at night? I would look at things like outside of training, Jonathan. I think you know this anyway, so it's a nice thing that you're doing. You're giving me a question to answer. I would look at things firstly outside. Are you sleeping okay? Is the environment all right? I would also look at just overall volume. Are you training too much during that 3 times a week? And with someone like yourself who knows what they're doing, you'd probably find that volume sweet spot anyway. If you were still not recovering and everything else was right, so your sleep was right, your nutrition was right, I would probably look at volume, which I sort of said anyway. I would look at that first. But I would try to get to the bottom of why you're not recovering. I think, if this is a sudden thing, if you've been training with that frequency, volume, intensity, and it's all been fine, and suddenly you started to not recover, something else has happened, hasn't it? It's not the trainings per se, because you've been okay with that. Or maybe you just got to a point of exhaustion. But I would switch things up like that. I would look at all of the normal things, hydration status, everything like that. So have you ever looked at the role of different fatty acid composition on body composition outcomes? Poly, mono and saturated fats. That's Jonathan again. Have I ever looked into that? I haven't really actually got studies and really looked into that as much as I should. So I think that's a good heads up. Have you, Jonathan? Because that could be something that you could do a video about. Or have you got a video and you can plug it here, which would be fine with me? By the way, Lee Copus did a brilliant thing with Dr. Abs, and I was really pleased to see that. And in about 2 weeks, my interview with Dr. Abs will be out. And Jonathan, you get a good plug for your book, by the way. So right, BB, where is your second Eddie Goic video, please? Well, it's on my channel. I'm sure I had him back. I did have him back, and it should be easy to find. I also was on his channel. I think that's just been released, and he interviewed me. So MJ, TSH 2.27, free T4 12.9. This seemed okay. I've started adding iodine drops to morning coffee. I do feel better now. Midday crash. Okay, yes. Because... what you're saying there about feeling great. One of the things I do actually talk about is the iodine clearance test. where you actually have either a fluid or you have a tablet, which has got a set amount of iodine in, and you take that and then you urinate, and your urine is measured over a period of time. And the idea of that is to see whether you are iodine deficient, which would be, for instance, let's pretend the body is perfect. You drink 100 units, or you have a 100-unit tablet of iodine, and then you urinate, and 100 units comes out over 24 hours. You're not deficient, because your body is saying we don't need it. Well, there could be some absorption problems. There's always a caveat to all these things, but pretty much you're not deficient. But the other interesting thing is, how do you feel when you take the tablet or you drink the liquid? If you suddenly feel great, and that's what I'm answering your question in this way, MJ, is if you feel great, then obviously your body is saying, wow, we needed this iodine. And that's often reported to me when people do the clearance test. They know the answer because when they're given some iodine, they suddenly start feeling great. So, MJ, I would need to know more numbers. So when you do TSH and you've got 3 T4, that's okay as indicators, but we also need to know about the conversion of T4 into T3 in the tissues, the peripheral tissues. It's always good to have reverse T3 if you can, and also the antibodies, TPO and TG antibodies, because that is a pretty good panel. And if you are doing a thyroid panel, I would also recommend looking at selenium and zinc levels if you can get that tested. Right. Thank you very much. Yes, Carnivore Muscle there. It's upcoming, but I'm working with someone to refine my knowledge first before I make a video. Yeah, I like to know what I'm talking about before I answer. So I think the thing about the different types of fats, well, I suppose just speculating, that's going to be really difficult anyway, because all foods pretty much have different proportions of each. And I think that is one of the interesting things about the way we eat, is the misconception about how much saturated fat is in something. I can repeat this because it was only this afternoon I was talking about it, one of the presentation that Zoe did. When you look at a ribeye steak, you think, well, there's a fair bit of saturated fat on that. Well, it's only 2% of that is saturated fat, 71% water, and then you've got, obviously proteins, and you've got, I think, 7% fat total, of which 2% of the whole thing is saturated fat. So it's probably going to be quite a difficult thing to judge. Let's have a look. So I'm a little bit frustrated because I was hoping that this would be better and wouldn't have that black thing, half the screen as black. I don't know why that is. Maybe I've got it set up as an interview. So let's just do this and see if I can get rid of that. Live interview mode. Right. Crazy. Right. Okay. I can't get rid of the black side of the screen. If anyone knows about Ecamm, please tell me what to do, because that would be fantastic. So that's going down there. I'm going to give up in a second because it's frustrating to not be able to do it professionally, and it's a bit pants for everybody to watch with the big black bit here, and there's not many questions coming in, but it was worth doing the experiment so I can go away and I can learn what to do. So I'm going to press all the buttons now down the side and see what happens. Right, let's have a look at this. So it's telling me I've got lots of different sources of video. I think it's waiting for the other source to come in. Well, I don't know about this. Let's press that button, see what happens. Okay. No, nothing. Nothing. That's what happens. Right. So that's probably that. Let's get rid of camera B. Oh, we're getting there now. We're working it out live. Okay. Swap cameras. Don't want to do that. Show camera. Switch your window. Don't actually want to get rid of that. Yeah, I know it's fine. But It's not fine, is it? Because I want to be able to do it professionally and properly. But anyway, at least I'm in the middle. I suppose that's a little bit of progress. I'd like it to be full screen. But anyway, Thursday night here in state-controlled Britain, and we were talking about many different things on our live in school, by the way, with Richard and I, which if you haven't joined, I'll put a link in the description, and you can do lots of live question and answers. I do feel that it's worth talking about quite a few of the things that have been bothering me recently. And one of the things is the misconception about how much vitamin C we need, because we don't need as much as people that eat the standard American diet, or they're getting their iron from plants, for instance. And that's because of a really simple mechanism. So somebody mentioned Eddie Goek, Eddie Goki, and I told him something that he'd not heard before. Now that surprised me because Eddie Goki, now I've got his name right now, is pretty on the ball with everything. So I was a bit surprised, and I just assumed that everyone knew this. So I'm just going to go through this a little bit about vitamin C. So when you eat your food from plant sources and you're eating non-heme iron, which is Fe3+, okay, or ferric iron. That's not what the body needs. It's not bioavailable. It needs to be heme iron, which is ferrous, which is Fe2+. And there is a thing in the enterocytes called the vitamin C ferroreductase, that's an enzyme, which needs a lot of vitamin C. And when the non-heme iron enters, you ingest it, it will go into the enterocytes, and then what will happen, it will be reduced basically by the vitamin C reductase, and that uses up a lot of vitamin C. Now, if you eat heme iron, that's not the case. Heme iron is ferrous, it's Fe2+, and it goes straight through. It gets free pass. It doesn't need the enzyme to reduce it. Therefore, you don't need vitamin C. It's a big part of iron consumption. The other thing is, as well, when people talk about ferritin, and this is where that variation coefficient I was talking about earlier came in, is people talk about high ferritin in inverted commas, and they're very worried about it. But really, you need to sort of look at the whole context of the iron panel, and that will make more sense. It is all about the difference between the serum iron, the ferritin, and you've also got your transferrin, you've got proteins that move the iron around, saturation, all of those. You need to look at the whole iron panel to work out what's going on. And just saying I've got high ferritin doesn't make any sense. It's an acute phase reactant as well, so you could have a little bit of an infection, and if you've got a little bit of infection, and not one necessarily that you know you've got, your body will store more of the iron to stop whatever is causing the infection. The attacking agent will need iron to live in your body, so it actually locks up that iron. Frank is saying, advice on helping a type 1 reduce carbohydrate consumption safely. Well, that is a good question, because when you are type 1, your pancreas is not producing enough insulin. So you're probably on some form of medication, probably on insulin if you're type 1. And the easiest way to reduce carbohydrates safely is to be very aware of the dosage and the carbohydrates you're taking in. And that is the first rule of Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution, which is one of the best books about type 1 diabetes. And that is the rule of small numbers, that's what he calls it. And I think that would be the book, that would be my advice actually, is to get that book, because it's absolutely spot on. But the easiest way to do it is to sensibly start to reduce and just keep an eye on your dosage, and that is going to be really helpful for you. If the numbers are smaller, then the dosing becomes easier as well. So when I was an advanced personal trainer, I was lucky to get somebody to the Olympics who was a type 1 diabetic, and that's actually she was actually the one that started me on my journey to be qualified in obesity and diabetes, because I really wanted to help her. And it was just incredible to see how the mainstream advice didn't help her whatsoever. Not at all. It's really, really surprising, and my eyes were being opened when it was happening. So MJ, super sticker from MJ. Video game controller hobbies along unhappily with a broken arm. Video game controller hobbies. Oh, we're talking about. I needed more information. Serum cholesterol, 5.6. Triglycerides 0.6. HDL is 1.2. Well, straight away that's pretty good, isn't it? That ratio between HDL and triglycerides. You want nice low triglycerides, higher HDL, which is really good. Couldn't make full sense. Look okay? Thanks. Well, yes, again, I mean, they do look okay. It's you can't actually give advice like this one-to-one because it's not that sort of patient professional sort of relationship. It's me just talking broadly for educational and informational purposes on YouTube. But if they were textbook bloods, what would you say? Well, exactly what I just said. The triglycerides are nice and low, and that seems to be associated with lower incidence of heart conditions, and the HDL is high. Now, even the mainstream say that's good cholesterol. There's no such thing as good or bad cholesterol, but that's what they would say. So that ratio from triglycerides and HDL would deem to be pretty good. Now, if you email me at zerocarbcoach, zero spelt out ZERO, carb, CARB, coach at gmail.com, MJ, if you do that, I will send you some more information. And if you just remind me that you saw me on this live when I couldn't work out how to use the camera properly, and that you put some figures up, maybe copy and paste those figures, I will send you some bits and pieces for you to have a read up on. Because I think that's really kind of you to do the super chat and to do that. Obviously, there is more to your question because you're obviously getting your bloods for a reason, and therefore you've put them up on the screen there, and you want to know more. Yes, they look okay superficially, but I would need to know a lot more. Normally, when people have bloods done, they don't just have the lipid panel; they have other things as well. So it's always good to look at that. Bloods aren't the be-all and end-all as well, and that is another thing. When you put it in context, what is a blood test based on? It's based on 4 teaspoons of blood, like I say, taken at one moment in time. 4 teaspoons of blood, one moment in time. You've got 8 to 12 pints of blood, or 5 to 5.5 litres, if you want to talk in a decimal way. So it's a small amount of blood, a snapshot in time. Now, the weird thing about this is you probably all get that is a snapshot in time, not very much blood. 70% of healthcare decisions in the West are based on that. Life-changing decisions, medications being offered just on this one snapshot. And I think not also understanding that those normative ranges are just that. They're just normal ranges. They're not optimal ranges. So they're not the best ranges if you want optimal health. So, Carol, hello, Carol. My cholesterol is now 11.2 and LDL 9. Reaching new heights. Right. Well, it's nice to see you, Carol. You're a big supporter, actually, aren't you? I think you're in school, or you've been in school, but I've definitely seen you on YouTube. So, yes, it's a nice comment. BB, where can we get bloods done easily, please? I have no faith in my doctor. Don't know where you live, BB. If you live in the UK, I have no... I now have an affiliate link, actually, this week, I think. I've done it. But I've been talking about Medichecks for a long time. Medichecks, MEDICHECKS. But I think actually sometimes they spell it without the C at the end there. So checks, CHEKS. But Medichecks are very good in the UK. Also, there's Neoverse if you do dried blood. They are local to me in the Derby area. Richard wasn't booked for today, BB. I didn't want to upset him by not knowing how to use the kit, so I thought I'd learn how to use eCam before I got Richard involved. So yes, if you don't trust your doctor, or have no faith in your doctor and you're looking for bloods, there are, certainly in America, you can get lots of private blood tests done. You don't tend to need anything other than money to be able to get them. They're not as expensive as you think. Most places you can get private blood testing done. I mean, that's what I did for 10 years. I did a decade of private blood testing. That I stopped that when the restrictions came into being, because you need a person right in front of you to take blood, and the amount of things you had to do was, to basically do so many things I wasn't prepared to do, that I stopped doing it, and so then just did it remotely. And there are different ways you can get bloods, but now it's all opened up and everything's fine, so you should be able to get bloods. Frank has ordered the book. Thanks, Stephen. That's good. I am working on a second edition. I think it's really good that you bought it. I think I'm proud of the book in the first edition. The second edition will have a lot more information in, based on the fact that since I went really public about the bloods, I've had so many more sent to me, and so many different brilliant results that people have got that I can talk about. But I'm really happy with the first edition of the book. I think it covered everything I really wanted to cover, from that 10 years of being frustrated and having doctors' comments that didn't make any sort of sense compared to the person I was seeing. So that was that. Right. But it is interesting about Richard. I have messaged him tonight about something else. So I think he's always busy on a Thursday. I think he does like a local club with Sarah Davis, I think, and they do the Healthy Living Club face to face, with groups of people. So I don't know who's gone, but we're getting a few more viewers just as I'm running out of things to say, because it was only going to be a 30-minute test. Like I say, my 1000th video I've recorded today with Zoe Harkham, so that's going to be out on the channel next week. I hope you have a look at that. I've been really proud of the things I've been doing recently, because some of the interviews have just been amazing. Some of the success stories are just out of this world. MJ, cardio whilst bulking. I enjoy walking every morning, 45 minutes fasted, then weight train, and then cycling a few miles a day. Was looking to include high intensity interval sprinting, or I used to call them sprint intervals or sprintervals. I love that. I love high intensity training. That's a lot of exercise, but I think if you're feeling good and you're getting the results you want, then go for it. But I do think one of the dangers of training is overtraining. So if you're not feeling good, don't add more training because you think, wow, I'm not feeling great. Maybe I need to work out even more. Maybe you need to look at the volume, what you're doing, and what is your goal. That's the other thing. When you come into training, if someone comes to me and says, I want to be a sprinter, well, the last thing I'd be doing is trying to get them to bulk up in the wrong way. I would want them to do the right exercises for sprinting, which is explosive, it's high intensity, but you want to be very explosive, very short and sharp. And actually run. I mean, so if it's 100 metres, then you need to be doing 100 metre sprinting as well. But also you can look at form and, your whole biomechanics, how you lift your knees up and how you prepare before you start. So there's lots to it. Frank, I met Dr. Bernstein, but I bought your book at Keto Brain Health. Yes, that's very good. Yeah, very lucky to meet Dr. Bernstein. He's a bit of a hero of mine. You probably guessed that. Yolanda, are the glucose apps reliable? I'm tired of sticking my fingers. Right, this is almost like a scripted question, because yesterday I had a continual glucose monitor delivered. Now, I've been doing the diabetic meeting way back 6 years ago. I was at MeatRx, which was Sean Baker's baby, which has grown and become Revero, which is great. And I used to do a Thursday night diabetes meeting for all the members of the MeatRx community, and because of my specialism in diabetes and obesity, so sort of made sense. And one of the things I used to love was there was a guy there that had 2 continual glucose monitors, 2 different brands, and also did the finger sticking because he wanted to know how reliable or unreliable they were. And the data didn't match exactly, but it was as near as possible, I think, considering it was in a different position, different arm. Anyway, right. So yes, continual glucose monitors seem okay. Now, I'm actually going to do this experiment, but today, when I tried to fit the continual glucose monitor, it failed completely and utterly, and just said it had expired. It was completely new out the box. So I was a little bit fed up, but I don't show that on screen. So we've got a new one coming, but yes, it's going to be next week, the experiment. It's frustrated me a little bit because I was going to do it with my wife, who has the last week of a continual glucose monitor this week. So we were going to eat the same foods at the same time, try and do a sort of decent-ish experiment to show the variation. We're going to eat exactly the same quantities, same time, and look at and compare glucose monitors. That's what we were going to do. And also I was going to use my Keto Mojo to look at how accurate it was. Now, I'm still going to do that, but I just wanted that extra element of somebody else eating exactly the same quantity of food at exactly the same time with the same hydration, being very boring for 7 days, doing exactly the same things, and sort of overlaying the results. I thought that would have been great. Hopefully it comes in time to be able to do a couple of days of that. I think that would be brilliant, personally. So when we did 23andMe, which is like the genetic testing, I had quite a good score. I'm basically a Neanderthal, and she isn't. So maybe I'm more suited for meat or not. So we're going to find that out. But she's been doing some great experiments with certain things that Jane is, by the way, not keep saying she, but it's Jane was doing it, and trying different things like bread, sourdough bread, some treacle tart, a little bit of this, that, and the other, just see how bad it was. And boy, treacle tart, actually, they couldn't even go as high as how her blood sugar had gone. It had actually gone off the chart. And actually, it was only half a slice that you normally get in a cafe. So that was quite a surprise. So we were watching, as we drove from the cafe, we were watching the blood glucose go up. Now, I know she's driving. That's not enough stress to make it go through the roof, all right? So it was the food. And no coffee. So it was just the foods. We were very good with the experiments. And it was like being on board the bridge of the Starship Enterprise, because I was going, oh dear, look at this, 8.7 Captain, 9.2 Captain, 11.1 Captain. It just was going up and up and up. A little bit of treacle tart. So they're good for that sort of thing, for a bit of biohacking and seeing what is good and what is bad. So porridge oats, bananas, they're not going to come out very well. So they are very good in that way, but they are also reliable, which was the question. Sorry, yes. So you can calibrate it with actually, your actual blood, which is the best way. Don't forget, when you prick your finger, you should always wipe the first bit of blood away, and then the next drop is what you should test, and that will give you a really good reading. And yes, I'm pretty happy with them. I don't think they're the world's best. The other thing is, if they're a little bit out, it's still about trends. If when you're looking at the glucose monitor, it goes up when you've eaten something and it drops down, the numbers are sort of irrelevant in that you can see a spike and a trough, a spike and a trough, and you can think, right, what I am eating is not really the best thing I could be eating, or what I'm drinking. Obviously it goes up with exercise, which many people think is not the case, because they think that exercise, well, you're using up all that blood glucose, but of course your body is demanding more blood glucose, so you'll get more blood glucose. Your liver will catch up. It's demand driven. So that's one of the things, actually, way back when I was doing the advanced personal training, I thought when your blood sugar fell, you would need to stop doing the exercise, but actually the proof of the pudding is in the CGM. You can start exercising and seeing your blood sugar go up. You can see that. Now, I'm not recommending that because it might not be your situation. All right, don't forget I was training athletes, so of very fit people. So just be careful if you're a type 1, especially, and if you've got fast acting carbohydrates. That's what you need to do. So you just got to be safe. But when you're with a professional, you can look at what's going on, and when we're doing a constant measuring of your blood glucose, and you know what you're doing, you can really see what the body needs, what it actually does need. Anyway, right. So I think Yolanda, I think I've answered that question. Looking forward to the next 1,000 videos. Very informative. Yes, that sounds so scary, doing another 1,000 videos. Wow. So if I was doing 2 a week, take over a year, wouldn't it? So there you go. That's great. I have a cold right now, says SL. How long should I wait after getting better before I get my bloods done? What a fabulous question. I would definitely wait until you're well clear of the cold, unless you want to know what your body is doing when you've got a cold. But that's probably not what you want. Although for me, you see, I'd love that as an experiment. What was happening when I had a cold, and 2 weeks later when I got rid of my cold? So yes, the answer was there. I would wait at least a week till you're fully over it and fully energized and good sleep, and because that's what you're like most of the time, and you want your bloods to reflect what's happening most of the time. Obviously, if there is other illnesses or pains, aches, just make sure that you're sensible. That's it. What do you think of omega-3 testing? Recently found out mine's at 9%. Must be all the fish. I think omega-3 testing is okay. There is a few, as with all of these things, some disadvantages as to how they work out what is optimal and how they work out the ratios, because there is still a little bit of your omega-3 ratio in tandem with how they think about your saturated fat and all those readings. So I think it's okay. Obviously, you're looking at omega-3s and omega-6s, maybe 9s as well. So yeah, it's not bad. I might be able to get my score up, actually. I'm not having a good tech day at the moment. Let me just see if I can get my score up on my portal. Let's just have a look. And oh, by the way, I did my advanced gut testing, and my microbiome after 5.5 years of carnivore is optimal. Yeah, ideal actually is their terminology. But that's all your tests. Let's have a look. My omega-3 testing. I can have a look. Download that report. Let's have a look. I did this in March 2024, so maybe I need to do it again at some other point. What did they say? Oh yes, my omega-3 index was insufficient. Now, I eat a ton of fish because up until age 50 I couldn't eat any fish. And I queried the result, and that's because it didn't make any sense. And this is one of the things I was saying about these tests. Do they make sense when you know the person? Now, I didn't really finish my story. I was somebody that couldn't eat fish, and I was hospitalised twice with problems eating fish that were in things that didn't or shouldn't have had fish in. So so that happened. So when I got to 50 and I went low carb, all of a sudden I started to get rid of all of my allergies, which was obviously a good thing. But the bottom line was I was so excited about being able to eat fish that I was eating it all the time. So my EPA, DHA, for instance, should have been really high. Should have been. And I was eating wonderfully caught salmon and all that sort of stuff. But what it is they look at your omega-6s and your saturated and trans fats. You see, now because I have a lot of saturated fat in my diet, you could say that changes that result. So then what happens is you get the 6:3 ratio, and my 6:3 ratio was pretty good. but it was still insufficient. My result wasn't good. So that was surprising. My trans fat result was optimal, a very low amount of trans fat. But the thing is, it just looks at so many different things and still gets into the certain fats that are notoriously not good for you, they reckon are good for you, and vice versa. So I'm not overly happy with omega-3 testing because it doesn't really understand this way of eating, which is exactly what I was going to say about bloods. It's exactly the same. Because, for instance, the blood urea nitrogen or the creatinine and this way of eating will go up because there's more protein being eaten. So you're going to have more waste product from protein metabolization. So that is that a word? Anyway, so it changes the EGFR, and that's quite misleading. And I've had that proven because the EGFR one springs to mind. You can do a thing called the cystatin C test, and sorry if you've heard this before, but the EGFR, because we're looking at the blood urea nitrogen, we're looking at the urea and the creatinine, and it's an equation. The EGFR for someone was 68, which isn't bad, in the scheme of things, but the cystatin C test said the actual filtration rate of the kidney was 112. That's a huge difference. That is a huge difference. So, Frank, I meant not met. All right. Yeah. Well, I have not met Dr. Richard Bernstein. I'd love to meet him. I think it would be great. So that, I think, is it. I have experimented with this. I don't know why I can't get the comments on the screen. I don't know why that is. I don't know why the screen is black on either side, but at least I've got myself into the middle. Thank you so much for watching. I am going to finish now, and I hope you have a great day. We'll be back to normal on Sunday, myself and Richard, 7 p.m. on a Sunday night. Here in State Control Britain, we'll do our live question and answer as normal. That's Sunday night at 7. And then at 8 o'clock, we do half-hour extra time on our school community, which really is just such good value for money. Then on the Monday night, we actually do a school live question and answer just for the members. That's a whole hour. It's just endless. Just so many questions and answers that you can have. So, yeah, Carol... if you are on school, let's get together with the omega-3 testing and share results and actually go through them, because I think that would be really interesting. That's another thing that we're going to do in school, is going to do some themed meetings. So I sort of snuck in there that I used to do the diabetes and obesity meeting at MeetRx. We're going to start doing stuff like that and being a bit more hands-on, so you can come and, if you've got bloods, you can share them live and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to do obesity, diabetes, might do some live blood analysis in the school as well. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. 45 minutes of just a little screen and some sound and some great questions, some good people here. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.